This is where we come to really have fun, Siriporn shouted over the music, her eyes bright with excitement. The drink started flowing immediately. Every time I finished a beer, Kulap appeared with a fresh one. When I tried to slow down, Niran would pull me onto the dance floor, her body moving against mine in ways that made my head spin with more than just alcohol. Tonight you celebrate like a Thai man, she laughed, pressing another shot into my hand. You are family now. Family drinks together. The last thing I clearly remember was sitting in a booth with all three of them, feeling like the king of the world. Niran was on my left, her hand on my thigh, whispering sweet things in my ear. Siriporn and Kulap were on my right, laughing at every stupid joke I made, making me feel witty and charming. The room was spinning gently, like being on a slow carousel, and I felt more loved and accepted than I ever had in my entire life. Then nothing. Black. I woke up in hell. The sunlight streaming through my hotel room curtains felt like needles in my eyes. My head was pounding so hard I thought my skull might crack. My mouth tasted like I'd been chewing on sandpaper for hours. But the physical pain was nothing compared to what I saw when I forced myself to sit up. My laptop was gone. The new MacBook I'd bought specifically for this trip, with all my photos, my contacts, my entire digital life. My wallet was on the nightstand, but when I opened it with shaking hands, all the cash was gone. $2,000 in crisp hundreds that I'd withdrawn just yesterday for our upcoming trip to the islands. My Rolex, the one I'd bought to celebrate my retirement, was missing from the nightstand where I always placed it. But they'd left something. A glass of water and 2 aspirin on the nightstand. A mocking kindness. A signature at the crime scene. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial Niran's number. When she answered, her voice was bright and cheerful, exactly like always. Michael. Good morning, my love. How are you feeling? Niran. I croaked, my voice barely working. My things are gone. My laptop, my money, my watch, everything's gone. The pause was so brief I almost missed it. Then, what? That's terrible. Are you sure? Maybe you put them somewhere safe when you were drunk. I was with you last night, I said, and I heard the accusation creeping into my voice, despite my efforts to stop it. You were the last ones in my room. The change was instant. Her voice turned cold, wounded. Michael, how can you say that? How can you even think such a thing? We are your friends. We love you. We would never hurt you. I could hear her starting to cry. After everything we've shared, after I opened my heart to you, this is what you think of me? The guilt hit me like a physical blow. Here was the woman I loved. The woman who had shown me more kindness than anyone in years, and I was accusing her of robbing me. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm just scared and confused. I don't know what happened. Maybe someone followed you home, she suggested, her voice still hurt, but trying to be helpful. There are bad people in Bangkok, Michael. They watch tourists, especially drunk ones. I'm so sorry this happened to you. By the end of the call, I was the one apologizing to her. I was the one begging for forgiveness. She had completely turned the situation around, making me feel guilty for being robbed, making me grateful that she was still willing to talk to me after my horrible accusations. I spent the next 3 days in a fog of confusion and self-doubt. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had been followed. Maybe I'd been too drunk to remember what really happened. I avoided going out, avoided the places where we'd made our happy memories. I just sat in my hotel room, replaying that night over and over, trying to make sense of what I couldn't remember. On the 4th day, I found myself in an expat bar called the Dubliner, nursing a whiskey and feeling sorry for myself. The place was full of older Western men, guys who looked like they'd been in Thailand for years. At the end of the bar sat a man who looked to be in his 70s, with deep lines in his face and eyes that had seen too much. He'd been watching me for a while, when he finally spoke. "Let me guess," he said in a gravelly voice with an Australian accent. "You met a beautiful woman, maybe 2 or 3 women. They became your best friends real quick. You felt special, chosen. Then you had a big night out, woke up missing some things, and when you confronted her, she made you feel like a monster for even suggesting she might be involved. I stared at him, my mouth hanging open. He just described my exact experience with terrifying accuracy. How did you know? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Because I've been here 15 years, mate, and I've seen it 100 times. You got played by professionals. What you experienced has a name. It's called the Sweet Family Scam. And Bangkok runs on it. He pulled out his phone and showed me a Facebook group called Bangkok Scam Victims Support. As he scrolled through the posts, my blood turned to ice water. Story after story, each one almost identical to mine. Different names, different amounts stolen, but the same method, the same script. Then he showed me the photos, security camera footage from various bars around Nana Plaza. And there they were, Niran, Siraporn, and Kulap, working different victims over the past 6 months. The dates were right there in black and white. While I thought I was falling in love, they were running a business. The names are fake, of course, the Australian said, matter-of-factly. They probably work for a larger organization. The crying sick relative, the grateful family celebration, the drugged drinks, it's all part of the playbook. You weren't unlucky, mate. You were chosen. I should have left it alone. I should have taken my losses and gone home. But something inside me snapped. It wasn't just about the money or the things they'd stolen. It was about the violation of my heart, the weaponization of my loneliness, the complete destruction of what I thought was real love. I found them exactly where I expected to, at Lucky Strike, working 2 new victims. Young backpackers this time, probably fresh off the plane, their eyes bright with the same stupid hope I'd felt just weeks ago. Niran was leaning in close to one of them, her hand on his arm, that same interested expression on her face that had made me feel so special. I walked straight to their table. Niran. She looked up, and for just a split second, I saw something flicker across her face. Surprise, maybe even fear, but it was gone instantly, replaced by that perfect smile. Michael, what a wonderful surprise. We were just making new friends. I know what you are, I said, loud enough for the whole table to hear. I know what you did to me, and I know you're about to do it to them. I turned to the 2 young men. These women are professional thieves. They're going to make you feel special, then they're going to drug you and rob you blind. The transformation was terrifying. The mask didn't slip off Niran's face. It was ripped away. Her beautiful features twisted into something ugly and predatory. Her eyes, which had once looked at me with such warmth, turned cold and reptilian. You need to leave, she said, her voice low and dangerous. Now. But I wasn't done. The weeks of confusion and self-doubt had turned into pure rage. How many others? I demanded. How many lonely men have you destroyed? Siraporn and Kulap stood up, and I realized they weren't the giggling, friendly women I'd known. They moved like predators, flanking me, their faces hard and threatening. The 2 backpackers shrank back in their chairs, finally understanding they were witnessing something dangerous. Niran stood slowly, her movements fluid and threatening. When she spoke, her voice was completely different. The musical Thai accent was gone, replaced by something harsh and urban. You have 10 seconds to walk away, old man. You got drunk. You lost your things. That's your story. Come near us again, and you'll have bigger problems than missing money. She leaned in close, her breath hot against my ear. I know where you're staying. Room 412 at the Grand Palace Hotel. It would be a shame if you had an accident. Falls downstairs happen all the time to stupid old men who don't know when to shut up. Fear is a powerful motivator. It cut through my anger like a knife through butter, leaving me hollow and shaking. I stumbled away from their table, pushing through the crowded bar, my legs feeling like they might give out at any moment. Behind me, I could hear Niran's voice, sweet and musical again, apologizing to the backpackers for the Crazy old drunk man. I didn't go back to my hotel room. I couldn't. Instead, I went straight to an internet cafe and booked the first flight out of Bangkok I could find. Then I went to a different hotel, paid cash for one night, and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall until morning. The taxi ride to the airport was a journey through hell. Every motorcycle that pulled up beside us, every car that followed too close, every face in the crowd at traffic lights looked like a threat. I kept checking over my shoulder, expecting to see them coming for me. The beautiful city that had once promised me paradise now felt like a maze of danger, every shadow hiding someone who wanted to hurt me. At the airport, I didn't feel safe until the plane was actually in the air. As Bangkok fell away beneath me, I pressed my forehead against the cold window and tried to make sense of what had happened to me. I wasn't just leaving Thailand. I was fleeing it, running from the best and worst thing that had ever happened to me. I'm back in Pittsburgh now, in an even smaller apartment than before. The money I lost wasn't enough to ruin me financially, but it was enough to change my life. No more dreams of exotic retirements or second chances in paradise. I'm back to grey winters and lonely nights, but now they're seasoned with the bitter taste of betrayal. The hardest part isn't the money or the things they stole, it's the memories, because some of it was real, at least for me. The laughter we shared, the places they showed me, the way they made me feel important and loved, those feelings were real even if their reasons for creating them weren't. How do you grieve for something that was beautiful and horrible at the same time? I think about those two backpackers sometimes, wonder if they listened to my warning, or if they thought I was just another crazy expat who'd had too much to drink. I hope they were smarter than me. I hope they saw through the beautiful lie before it was too late. The Australian from the bar was right. I wasn't picked randomly. They chose me because I was perfect for their purposes. Lonely, naive, desperate for connection, carrying enough money to make it worth their time. I was an ideal victim, and they played me like a master musician plays an instrument. But here's what I learned in the wreckage of my broken heart. Paradise isn't a place you can fly to. It's not something you can buy with retirement money or find in the arms of beautiful strangers. Real paradise is built slowly, carefully, with people who know your flaws and love you anyway. It's built on truth, not beautiful lies. I still get text messages sometimes, from numbers I don't recognize. Hello, my dear friend. I miss you. When are you coming back to Bangkok? I delete them without reading the whole message, but sometimes, in my weakest moments, I wonder what would happen if I replied. Would they try to hook me again? Do they remember me specifically, or am I just another name in their database of broken hearts? The loneliness is still there. The grey Pittsburgh winters are still cold and endless, but now I know the difference between being alone and being lonely, and I know which one is more dangerous. Being alone is just a physical state. Being lonely makes you desperate, and desperate people make stupid decisions. So this is my warning to anyone listening. Paradise exists, but it's not for sale, and if someone you just met is offering to sell it to you, especially if they're beautiful and charming and make you feel special, run. Run as fast as you can, because the price they're asking isn't just your money. It's your ability to trust, to love, to believe in second chances. Some lessons cost more than we can afford to pay, but we pay them anyway. This was mine. I hope it doesn't have to be yours. They say paradise is a place where your heart finally feels at home. But what they don't tell you is that paradise can become your personal hell when the people you trust become the monsters you never saw coming. This is my story. This is how I learned that sometimes the most beautiful dreams hide the ugliest nightmares. If you like our videos, please subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. My name is Michael, and 3 months ago I was sitting in my cramped studio apartment in Pittsburgh, staring at a retirement letter that felt more like a death sentence. 59 years old, divorced, kids who barely called, and a bank account that screamed, "You wasted your life." The grey Pennsylvania winter pressed against my windows, like a reminder of everything I'd never done. That's when I saw the travel blog post about Bangkok. The photos showed a city that pulsed with life, where an American dollar stretched like a lifeline and where a man like me could start over. I sold everything I owned, packed 2 suitcases, and bought a one-way ticket to Thailand. The plane touched down at midnight, and as I stepped into the humid Bangkok air, I felt something I hadn't felt in decades. Hope. Nana Plaza hit me like a fever dream. Neon lights painted the streets in electric blues and hot pinks. Music poured from every doorway, mixing into a symphony of possibility. Street vendors called out in broken English, their grills sending up clouds of spiced smoke that made my mouth water. And the women, God, the women were everywhere. Smiling, laughing, their eyes promising adventures I'd only dreamed about back in my lonely Pittsburgh nights. I found a small hotel 3 blocks away. Nothing fancy, but clean. That first night I walked the plaza for hours, nursing a beer at different bars, just watching the chaos unfold around me. For the first time in years, I felt alive. But I was completely alone in paradise, and loneliness in a crowd is the worst kind of empty there is. It was my 4th night when she appeared. I was sitting at a corner table in a small bar called Lucky Strike, trying to look like I belonged while feeling like a tourist with a neon sign above my head. The bar was quieter than the main strip, filled with expats and locals who seemed to actually know each other. I was scrolling through my phone, pretending to be busy, when I heard her voice. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world." Her English was perfect, with just a hint of Thai accent that made every word sound like music. I looked up, and my breath caught in my throat. She was stunning, probably early 30s, with long black hair that caught the bar's dim light and eyes that seemed to see right through me. She was dressed simply, not like the working girls I'd seen on the main strip, but in jeans and a white blouse that spoke of class and confidence. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to stare," I stammered, feeling heat rise in my cheeks. She laughed, a sound like silver bells. "I'm Niran." She gestured to the empty chair across from me. "May I?" Before I could answer, 2 other women appeared as if from nowhere. "These are my sisters," Niran said with a smile. Siriporn and Kulap. They were younger, maybe mid-20s, with the same striking beauty and warm smiles. Siriporn had short hair and laughed easily. Kulap was quieter, more mysterious, but her eyes sparkled with intelligence. They slid into chairs around my small table, instantly transforming my lonely corner into the most popular spot in the bar. "So, Michael," Niran said, and I realized I'd never told her my name. She must have heard me talking to the bartender earlier. What brings a handsome American to our beautiful chaos? The way she said it made me feel special, chosen. For the first time in months, I felt interesting. I told them about my retirement, my divorce, my need for something different. They listened with genuine interest, asking questions that made me feel like my boring life story was the most fascinating thing they'd ever heard. That night stretched into morning. We moved from Lucky Strike to a rooftop bar with views of the glittering city, then to a late-night noodle stand where they taught me to use chopsticks properly while we laughed until my sides hurt. Siriporn was a teacher, she said. Kulap worked in a hotel. Niran managed a small boutique. They were real people with real lives, not the fantasy figures I'd expected to meet in Nana Plaza. When they finally walked me back to my hotel as the sun was rising, I felt like I'd found something I'd been searching for my entire life. The next 2 weeks were the happiest of my life. Every day brought a new adventure with my 3 angels. They showed me the real Bangkok, away from the tourist traps. We visited temples where monks in orange robes blessed us with gentle smiles. We took a boat trip down the muddy Chao Phraya River, where Niran pointed out landmarks while Siriporn and Kulap fed me homemade sticky rice from a basket they'd brought. They brought me to their favorite restaurant, a tiny place with plastic chairs and the best pad thai I'd ever tasted, where the owner greeted them like family and looked at me with approving nods. But it was more than just the places we went. It was how they made me feel. Niran would text me every morning with a cheerful, "Good morning, my dear friend," and a photo of her breakfast. Siriporn would send me funny videos throughout the day. Kulap, the quiet one, would surprise me with thoughtful questions about my life back home, making me feel heard and understood. They made me feel like I mattered. The romance with Niran blossomed slowly, naturally. It started with her hand brushing mine as we walked through the weekend market. Then lingering looks across dinner tables. One evening, as we sat on a bench watching sunset paint the Bangkok skyline gold and red, she leaned against my shoulder and whispered, "I never expected to meet someone like you, Michael. You have such a gentle heart." When she looked up at me with those dark eyes, I felt 20 years younger. That night, she kissed me softly under the neon lights of Sukhumvit Road, and I knew I was falling in love. It was a Tuesday morning when everything changed. I was eating breakfast at the hotel restaurant, planning another day of exploring with my new family, when my phone rang. Niran's name flashed on the screen, but when I answered, her voice was nothing like the cheerful woman I'd grown to love. "Michael," she sobbed, and my blood went cold. "Something terrible has happened. My father, he's in the hospital. They say his heart. It's very bad. The doctors, they want to do surgery, but we don't have the money. We're just poor people, Michael. I don't know what to do." The desperation in her voice cut through me like a knife. This was the woman who had brought light back into my dark world, and she was falling apart. "How much?" I asked, without hesitation. "How much do you need?" "It's too much," she cried. 40,000 baht. We could never ask you for so much money, but if we don't get it today, the doctors say. Her voice broke into sobs. 40,000 baht was about $1,200. I had that and more in my checking account back home. "Niran, listen to me," I said firmly. "I'm going to help you. Your father is going to be fine. I'll transfer the money right now." The relief in her voice was overwhelming. "Michael, you are an angel sent from heaven. I will never forget this kindness. Never." She gave me the bank details, and within an hour, I'd wired the money from my phone. When I called her back to confirm, she was crying again, but these were tears of joy. "The surgery is scheduled for tomorrow morning," she said. "You saved his life, Michael. You saved my family." That night, she came to my hotel room. We made love for the first time. And as she lay in my arms afterward, tracing circles on my chest with her finger, she whispered, "I love you, Michael. I never thought I could love an American man, but you're different. You have the heart of a Thai man, generous and kind." 3 days later, Niran called with the best news. Her father's surgery had been successful, and he was recovering well. "We must celebrate," she insisted. "My sisters and I, we want to take you somewhere special tonight, a place only locals know about. We want to show you how grateful we are." The club was in a part of Bangkok I'd never seen before, down a narrow alley that seemed to exist in its own world. The music was loud, the lights were low, and the crowd was a mix of locals and expats who looked like they'd been living in Thailand for years.